All right, welcome back to the Compassionate Cultures podcast. I'm Rebecca Hemmings, your host, and also the director of Strawberry Words. So today, if you're watching, you can see I've got a guest, Salman Mirza, who is a trade union representative, activist, and advocate for social justice who now works directly with asylum seekers and migrants, helping them to find a sense of safety and fairness in a system that can often feel anything but. And I really wanted to speak to Salman because Salman is also my friend. I've known Salman for years. And actually, I found a picture of us from 2008 being a part of a celebrating sanctuary event in, I think, Victoria Square many moons ago. Very, very young, clearly. But I really wanted to speak to you not only about your own story, Salman, but also about your experiences working with migrants, given at the moment it is such a, well, it's a hot topic for want of a better term. And I just really felt like I wanted to get a bit closer to the voice of of those who are experiencing this firsthand. And whilst we don't have any migrants on this show, on this show today, um, and that may come at a later time. We've discussed that. I just want to get some feeling about how people are coping with this. So thank you and welcome, Salman.
Oh, welcome. Thank you. And thanks for the invite. I'm flattered.
So, I mean, I've been doing a lot of reading and I've learned so much more about you actually through doing a bit of research on you. So, I mean, you've had a pretty amazing journey from growing up in Luton to serving in the army and now dedicating your life to supporting asylum seekers and migrants. So, my first question to you is what actually drew you to this work and how does some of your early experience of racism shape the way you advocate for others today?
I mean, I put it, it's a bit cliche, but I put it down to my parents. My dad had a real, he wasn't political in the sense that he spoke out or he went on protest in that traditional sense, but he had a real political soul, if you like. Yeah. So we'd always watch the news, the whole family. His hero, well, our family hero was Malcolm X because, he was a Muslim. I remember what really shaped us as well was watching. A lot of your viewers probably can't remember this; they're too young. But Roots, it was an '80s series about slavery, and I remember. I mean, I'm getting emotional now watching it with the whole family, and everyone was like in tears watching it. My dad, my
It's
mum, my
a
brother. We were silenced,
it's a hard
in some of the
watch.
scenes. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, but also inspiring. And then you watch those films, and then you see what's going on, and ultimately you think, what side am I on? And I thought I want to be on the side of people who want to resist against oppression. So, in a sense, that's kind of the journey. Like, my dad, my own experience is seeing like a really divided world. I mean, in a sense, if you ask for an epiphany moment, my dad used to take us to model car shops and train shops in London. And I remember driving through Park Lane and then seeing homeless people. And at the time, homeless people was very, very rare. So it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I was like questioning, thinking, why is there so much wealth and so much poverty? And I goes, that is kind of that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. Okay, so tell us a bit about your current role. So, what kind of supports are you providing to migrants and asylum seekers, and what would you say are the most pressing challenges that they're facing at the moment?
I mean, what I would say is a lot of what's going on with the flags and all the racism and that is kind of secondary to people because a bit like, that Maslow's triangle of need.
Maslow's hierarchy
Obviously,
of needs. Yeah.
sorry, had to, but yeah, people are living hand to mouth. They're becoming homeless. They can't find work. You know, they can't claim benefits much as people think. So that's what I'm dealing with. I'm firefighting with people trying to put food on the table because of their immigration status. So a lot of times it's people who haven't renewed their visas because they haven't got the knowledge to realise that they've got to renew it. A lot of them they're escaping domestic violence or poverty at home or violence back home. So the best way to describe it, I'm like an immigration lawyer. So I'm dealing with all the legal side of it, but also I'm trying to give agency to the people I work with. So the way I work is I try to get them to fill in their applications, but also I encourage them to get involved in the community and turn their individual struggle into a collective to get as many people in, like in a sense, if one person is part of volunteering at a food bank, say, I say, look, try to have a conversation with the people you work with about your other struggles in life because they will then want to help you. That's a
Yeah.
huge. That's what I've noticed when people are together, even
Yeah.
if they think they hate you, they actually don't.
That's interesting. And also interesting that you say, and it makes total sense that when you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and the bottom rung of that is it's security, right? You're getting your very basics, you're getting fed, you've got shelter, you've got warmth. Of course, that's going to be your priority. But so are you saying then that actually all this stuff, the flags, the anti-migrant rhetoric has no impact on them?
I think it has, but I think the situation is they're in such financial or economic and like that kind of turmoil. That's secondary to them. And I think for a lot of people, even us, because we feel we're a bit powerless against it, we don't want to watch it. It's a bit like this is damaging my mental health. I've got to switch off. I've got to, do some fun stuff with my life. Like, sometimes I see the clients and they come in and then they show me their like their WhatsApp picture or their Facebook or something, and I don't recognize them because they look so they're made up, they're beautiful, they're living their life, that, and it might be a mask, but I'm impressed by that resilience and that thing where they're saying, you know what, no matter what you throw at me, I've still got my dignity. I've still got this is what defines me, not my
Yeah.
immigration status, not your flags, this, my beauty, my soul, my faith, that kind of stuff. And it's very powerful.
Yeah, and again, it makes so much sense, we've had conversations about the flags, and you've bravely taken one down in, was it Bearwood that you took it down,
Yeah.
and then gained, a lot of hate because of that. I drive through King's Standing every single day, and it's surrounded by flags. I find that really distressing. But if all I ever did, or if all we ever did, was focusing on those negative things, we wouldn't have much of a life. So you do have to step out of that and play Monopoly with your family or go out to and have a party or whatever it is you do, because you have to have some sort of release. So absolutely, that makes sense. And why should that be any different for someone who's trying to, gain some sort of status in this country? Okay, so you've worked with both new arrivals and those that have been here for decades. And so I'm interested in, are you noticing any differences between how established migrants are reacting to this and how newer ones are responding to the rise in the hostility?
Well, I think with the newer ones, because you've got some language issues, they sometimes don't know what's going on. And
Mm.
credit to a lot of the staff who go into, say, the hotels, they're saying, look, this is not everybody, this is a minority, a very loud minority. So, I mean, people are frightened, and people do, they'd come to us saying, what's going on? Why do people? It's more confusion about like, what have I done?
Yeah.
Why are they saying this to me? I don't understand. They're trying to, their brain's not computing that hate.
Mm.
Um, so you get that with the new arrivals. With the older ones, some of them, sadly, they're a bit like, oh, it's the other people. I'm all right. It's always the other migrant
Yeah.
who not them. So, I mean, I have a candid conversation with them. I say, look in the mirror. But
Mm.
even with second generation migrants, people like me who are born here, I'm having
Yeah,
big arguments with them. They're saying, oh, it's the Somalis or it's this and that. I'm like, speak to your parents.
absolutely.
When a racist comes up to you, the first thing they do is they don't say, "Oh, can I check your visa? Can I check your
Mm.
passport?" They
Yeah.
don't. They just say, "Oh, you that colour, I'm going to hit you," and that's the reality. And I think I push that forward with people. They do acknowledge it, and we do have the debates and the discussions. I don't. I want to have a more holistic approach towards working with the people I work with, and I don't want to have this victim mentality or this like I'm the person in the know, you're this kind of passive vessel, and I'm helping you all the time. No, I think it's a two-way system. There are some things I often, like I said, I say, look, join a union, get active in a local campaign, get active in your hobbies and your sports. Because ultimately, when you do get your visa, you'll hit the ground running because you'll have this on your CV. And
Yeah.
even before the Labour saying, I said, you've got to learn English. And I think a lot of times people think, oh, I've got to learn it in the traditional way by going on a course. I'm saying, no, not necessarily. If you've got mates who are English, you're forced to learn English. If you watch movies with subtitles, your English will start to improve. If you volunteer in a shop even for 1 hour a week, you'll be, and sometimes when you're forced to do things, that's better than doing an ESOL class. Because I've met people who haven't been on an ESOL class, their English is incredible. I've met people who have been on an ESOL class and their English ain't that good. I'm not deriding or having a go at ESOL teachers, or it's absolutely necessary and we need more of it.
I know you're enjoying the episode, but I've just got to tell you this. If you're wanting your organisation to transform with regards to diversity and inclusion, you need to check out our Crafting Compassionate Cultures online learning hub. It includes our 4 CPD accredited online courses, including one around anti-racism, microaggressions, sexual harassment, DEI, and more to come. It includes team leader packs so you can have discussions with team members about the learning, our HR integration toolkit so you know exactly how to roll out this program, and it's got email templates and more, certificates of completion, monthly learning reports, a monthly expert-led Q&A, and bite-sized videos, and so much more. Want to find out more and to trial it for 1 day free of charge, no questions asked? Visit our website www.strawberrywords.co.uk. That's strawberrywords.co.uk. Now back to your episode. All right, I'm going to kind of go somewhere now, which I didn't kind of plan to, but I think it's really important because a lot of people that are listening to this are going to be from the workplace, probably won't have had any contact with migrants or asylum seekers, and what they're very aware of are the headlines. And so, um, what many people hear is that, oh, they're violent, they're disruptive, they're all these horrible negative things. Now, I know you've got to be realistic. No group of people are 100% perfect. But with regards to some of those headlines, how do they match up with the reality?
I mean, it's interesting because I have to watch these headlines, so my algorithm shows. So sometimes I start feeling, oh my God, I'm beginning to feel like this, right? Then I reflect and I think, well, look, I've been doing this job for 24 years. I have seen thousands of, I mean, I see on average 100 people a week, right? So I've seen thousands of migrants with immigration problems. And I can say, hand on heart, being honest, I've probably met less than 10 who I thought, you're a scumbag. I just can't, just get out of my sight, yeah? And the reality is, when people say, oh, these paedophiles, they get houses and they get indefinite leave to remain, or they get let off with like free phones if they get caught. No, the immigration rules say, look, if you've done a criminal act, goodbye, that's it, non-negotiable. But the other
Definitely.
thing that I don't like about this debate as well is I don't believe, one, I don't believe in double punishment. If somebody's done a crime, they've done it. But also, I don't like domestic violence wherever it is in the world. So in a sense, say for example, I use the classic these, say Pakistani groomers, right? Yeah, and people say, "I'll deport them." What? So they go to Pakistan and groom and rape Pakistani children in Pakistan? No, I don't want that. These people need to be dealt with so they never commit that crime again, no matter what country they're in. And that's how I view that situation. But again, I can't stress this enough. It's hardly any. And I'm not saying that they're all perfect. They're not. You've got all sorts of clowns in all communities, right? But I don't tar everyone with the same brush. I mean, I'll give you a good example. I do on a bit of a side hustle. I don't get paid for it. We do it for a bit of fun, yeah? So I fix old bikes and we fix them up and we give them away. Now, we were running a little project at where I work, and I contacted Women's Aid and said, look, do you want some bikes? Because we get lots of donations, we can fix them up, give them to them so the women can ride around, the little kids can have them. The Women's Aid said, yeah, all right, that sounds like a good idea. I spoke to the guy, literally, they're on their hands and knees fixing bikes, trying to help out and all the rest of it. And then we got that story out in Birmingham Live. So I think when you ask anybody, do you want to help somebody else? Generally, people say, yeah, yeah, why not? And they get a lot out of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And disproportionately, the migrant community help the other migrant community. So in a
Okay.
sense, when I speak to particularly Jamaicans saying, how are you surviving? The
Yeah.
church. I'm thinking, oh my God, the church and the people who go to this church are not rich. They are poor. They're providing housing, sustenance, support, spiritual and physical
Yeah.
for these people for many, many years. And that to me is really inspiring.
Yeah. Yeah. I know the Sikh community do a lot as well. So
Yeah.
there's many different communities, yeah, chipping in. Okay. Gosh. Yes, we could talk about this for a long time. Um, but I'm going to move on. So you've spoken quite movingly about how your father's humility and strength, and how those, excuse me, values have shaped you. How do those lessons influence the way you support others to stay hopeful, amid all this madness?
I mean, what I often say is existence is resistance. Every day you're here and you refuse to leave because you believe this is the best for your children or your family, that is an act of defiance. That is political. That is revolutionary. And I say that lots of times, and you can see they think, do you know what? I never looked at it like that, and yeah, I get it, I get it. I mean, look, I don't even like coming to Birmingham city centre. I just hate it. I like just chilling out here. If somebody says, "Oh, you got a conference to go to London," I'll be like, "Oh God, do I have to?" These people travel across the world, and when people talk about, "Oh, we need to protect the children, the best interest of the child, we have to this, that, and the other," I've never been so moved or shocked by how a lot of my, especially black women in the main, right? Yeah, have moved heaven and earth for the betterment of their children. And when sometimes you see these children, they're incredibly intelligent and resilient, and it's a testament to the parents. I would say proportionally, when the families come in, they say, "Oh, Sal, my kids have got, grade A students and this, that, and the other." Or when I see the reports in the school, it's like, these kids are amazing. And you think, actually, that's the reality on the ground.
Yeah. Despite all these challenges.
Despite all the, yeah, despite all the challenges, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. And I'm going to ask another question, which I asked you when we met recently, and it's more to do with how, because I find you quite a resilient person when it comes. I know obviously this impact, all of this anti-migrant, racist sentiment impacts you, but you deal with it in quite a unique way. And so, what advice would you give to people who are working in this space? In the anti-racist space, anti-discrimination space, as a way of handling it. Other than I heard what you said about, existence is resistance, and I think that's really powerful. But in terms of someone who's actually in the work, just like you are, what kind of temperament can you adapt to help you through it?
Oh, a couple of things. The first thing is, don't take anything seriously. And sometimes people are shocked by that. They think, hang on, this person could be homeless, or, you're talking about Palestine, the genocided children. And if I'm depressed and I'm really upset all the time, I'm really powerless. I will not do anything. So I don't take, I'm quite an angry person, but also I don't take things seriously, right? And I do think that that helps as a mechanism. Also, I understand that a lot of the people we work with, right, are tough and they've got agency. And sometimes I've seen in the sector where our people, like the workers, are more upset than the clients are. And then my Iranian friend, he said a really brilliant quote. He said, "Don't be the bowl hotter than the soup." And what that means is we're the bowl, which is really hot, and the client is the soup, and the soup is cool. They're dealing with it way better than we are. So I'm like, well, look, if the person on the cold face suffering this is pretty chilled about it and dealing with it in their own way, why am I losing sleep over it? I'm going to do my very best. I'm going to go above and beyond if I can to help people, right? But I can't, because if I do, I have to give up. I have to get another job.
Thank you. And just one final question. What practical things can individuals and organizations do to make life safer and more welcoming for racially marginalized and Muslim migrants right now? Or just people in general?
That's a long question. I mean, what I would say is people need to mix more, right? But then you can't force people to mix. So what I would say is, I mean, a bit like what your job is, right? we need to have conversations in workplaces because not everybody is going to meet a migrant. And the ones who do are not the issue because they're pretty chill. They're like, what? They're like, it's like me, what are you on about? It's the ones who don't. So I think we need to have candid conversations in workplaces, right? And that needs to be facilitated where people can be openly racist because I'd rather it out than in, right? I don't want people going, oh, I have to do this equality trial, or I have to do this, or I have to have a conversation. No, I can't say anything. Say it, and let's have a discussion. And then what happens in that discussion stays in that discussion. But at least it's starting a conversation, and at least we can say we never shut you up. We let you have your voice, but we want our voice as well.
Mm. Oh, I'm listening to that and I'm like, I agree, but and my but is just about the safety of the racialized people in the room. You know, I think yes, we need to have honest conversations, but I think if you allow people just to let rip, then it can cause harm. But I hear what you're saying, that people have to be able to say, look, this is what I'm really thinking, and let's talk about that. But I think that can be said in a way where it's not an attack, it's said with care. Yeah, I given what I do, I have to say that bit. But you know, obviously, you're totally. I asked you the question and you answered it honestly. Thank you. That's been amazing, as I thought it would be. Just thank you so much for the continued work that you do, and you're also a part of the Birmingham Race Impact Group's Briggs Pioneers, Anti-Racism Pioneers photography exhibition.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I
Yeah,
was forced to
yeah.
do
You're
it.
forced to do it. Okay. Well, just to say for people who are listening, that exhibition does exist, and I believe it's in the Birmingham Library for the next few months or so. So, you know, you can learn more about Salman and others like him in the library. But I just want to say thank you. I think the line that stuck with me was two really. There's the one about existence being resistance, and also about not being the soup holder. Is that what you said? Soup
But
holder?
don't be the bowl hotter than
The
the soup.
bowl. Yeah,
Yeah,
don't be the
don't be the
bowl
bowl hotter
holder.
than the soup. Yeah,
Yeah, I like that. Sometimes we can over worry about things, and actually, people are finding ways through. But I think I'll always be that soup bowl because that's just the nature of who I am. But I just wish you lots of continued strength to do this work because it ain't easy. And just thank you so much for your time and your insight and your wisdom.
thank you. Thanks for the invite.